here puts him right back into things.
Yeah, there's a lot of people hanging outside the fringes here who are not that far off from making a run of the Players' Championship. Boswell is among them.
Temple of Malady to start off round number 4. Boswell says, I like that idea. I'll do that too. Scry to the bottom here. As we will head back to Strong. You see Strong does have a Thoughtseize in his hand. Haven't seen one of those yet today either. So we'll see if he wants to lead off with that. You see Wooded Foothills over there. A mountain as well here for Strong. Jund, not really a deck I expected to see a lot of, but this is the second time on camera.
Well, green stuff plus Rabble Master plus Hero's Downfall Thoughtseize is not a bad base to build a deck.
There is a Thoughtseize. So, Mr. Boswell, let's see that hand. You'll see, of course, we have Crewfix and Abzan Charm along with the Hero's Downfall. Just a couple of lands there, an Urborg, a Forest. Actually make that 2 forests, and then a Land of War Wastes.
A classic Abzan hand of stuff.
Pretty much.
I can play a thing or I can kill your thing.
Yep. See, Strong's going to write all these down. We'll see what card he does want to take. Again, Boswell, all of his stuff does cost 3 mana at this point, so Strong not really in danger of anything on turn number 2 unless Boswell does peel off a mana accelerant there, be it Sylvan Caryatid or Elvish Mystic. Again, deck does look pretty similar to what Ari was up to at the Pro Tour. Even the 2 copies of Wingmate Rock. And it looks like Abzan Charm is the card that's going to go. Lax was a big fan of that card at the Pro Tour set. Well, basically did everything I could hope for it to do, and that's Boswell's draw. So nice Thoughtseize, Tom Strong.
Well, he can't keep him off of the removal spell. And Corsair is kind of a, I mean, in the way this game is shaping up, Sign in Blood may be the best card in his hand right now.
Sure.
So I think it makes a lot of sense for Strong to go after it.
Well, time to Thoughtseize again, and Tom's going to see the exact same hand. I took an Abzan Charm. I drew an Abzan Charm.
Second verse, same as the first.
Yeah, you can take it again, I suppose. One thing to keep in mind here as we do see Boswell's hand is the one thing he doesn't have actually is white mana at this point. Might be relying on the Corsair to do that, as Strong is going to play an Urborg before passing the turn back. Boswell will draw a card. It's another copy of Hero's Downfall, so now he's got 2 of those. Remember, too, Boswell, when he did get second place at the Grand Prix earlier in this building, he was playing Jund in Modern, so he's very familiar with this kind of mid-rangey, good stuff strategy.
No, most of the damage he did in Standard last season was with green-white aggro, which he was a huge advocate for.
You know, I got to say, even though he didn't top 8 a ton with that deck, I mean, he's the guy, people always look at the standings, they see, okay, what are the top 8 decks? That's all I care about. Boswell with green-white was always in the top 16.
8-2, 8-2, 8-2, over and over again, yep.
Until he lost in the finals in Baltimore to Danny Jessup. That was, you know, that was kind of his breakout with the green-white deck. You see Ringmate Rock as a top card here from Corsair of Crewfix. So his accomplishments, you know, he's not number 23 for no reason. He kept going 8-2 with the green-white deck, a huge advocate for the deck. And I would say, overall, he was right about that deck.
It is very true that people get hung up on just show me the top 8 decks or just show me the winning decks. When someone is 8-2ing and 7-3ing every weekend they're playing, that to me is more indicative of success than occasionally posting a top 8.
Strong's going to sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. He's going to get a mountain, and he drew a mountain, so he's going to play that, and now there is the Phoenix. So this might be, thus far, through, you know, 3 rounds in a game, this might be the most popular card that we've seen this weekend.
We have seen, I mean, a ton of it. Especially, I mean, relative to week 1 or relative to the Pro Tour. I mean, there's just a ton of this card going around.
The 4-1 flyer is here. You know, what I also find kind of curious in this situation is just, you know, let's say that Boswell attacks with the Corsair Crewfix. Does your Phoenix just immediately block there because it's going to get turned face down? Probably, but, you know, that's kind of an interaction that's going to probably happen a lot now in this format.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to attack my Corsair into your Phoenix? Just so that your Phoenix is a face-down threat instead of a 4-1 flyer.
By blocking and trading, what is the likely follow-up here from Boswell would be a Hero's Downfall. And Strong could be working under the assumption that that clears a path for the Sarkhan in his hand. So we may take a chance to block, even though we know Boswell has a second downfall and can answer the Sarkhan.
Boswell does play a copy of Urborg, so he will gain a life. He's up to 21. You see Elvish Mystic on top of his deck. Again, the issue here for Boswell is no white mana. He's got that Wingmate Rock in his hand, but he's a long way away from casting that, along with those two copies, of Hero's Downfall that you mentioned, and then that basic forest that Strong does know about.
The problem here from Boswell's seat is both of these plays kind of stink.
Yes.
Like, trading your Corsair and a removal spell for the Phoenix stinks, and just sitting here getting hit stinks. But I think it's probably correct for Boswell to just sit back on defense for the time being, but it is not an ideal spot.
Strong going to very quickly sacrifice the Wooded Foothills here and go get a basic forest. We can't forget the minor interaction between fetch lands and Urborg, which is, of course, when you have a fetch land and an Urborg in play, you can actually tap the fetch land to provide black mana.
Although at this stage, Strong might be valuing thinning out his deck a little bit more than the 1 point. And I like this play a lot from Strong, not trying to get too greedy here. He knows that Boswell has a downfall, so just try to get your guaranteed value here.
So Courser's going to bite the dust. Hero's Downfall will get Sarkin, and now Boswell will draw a card. Elvish Mystic is the draw. Again, we all know that. So that's going to come into play. Boswell will play a forest and just simply pass the turn back. So Wingmate Rock and Hero's Downfall is what Boswell is working with. For Strong, Will's hand is much better. He's got 2 copies of Hero's Downfall. He just picked up a copy of Courser. So he will deploy the 2/4. Top card of the deck is a Bloodstained Mire. That's going to come in, gain Strong a life. He's going to go up to 15. We'll see the top card of the deck now is a copy of Llanowar Waste. And now here's an attack for 4 in the air. Boswell's going to go down to 13. Note that Strong has plenty of black mana because of Urborg, so he can cast Hero's Downfall. Boswell's going to use his Downfall. And Strong is going to sacrifice this Bloodstained Mire so we can get a little bit of information. Do you like the sacrifice in response? Because you're giving Boswell the information too.
I think it's still worth it because I think at this point, both players are playing pretty close to hand up. And it matters way more just to have a productive draw than it does the little bit. Well, you mean waiting until after the fact?
Yeah, giving the info. Yeah, I'm fine with sacrificing the Bloodstained Mire. You're giving away the info. Strong is going to gain the info, but you're also giving away to Boswell. Okay, well, Boswell knows now, okay, your draw is a Thoughtseize next turn. It could influence the way he plays his turn.
Yep. Because Strong really isn't doing anything except, untapping and drawing the card he gets anyway. It doesn't change any of his decision-making.
Another Elvish Mystic there for Boswell. Strong does draw a copy of Thoughtseize. Again, 2 copies of Hero's Downfall in his hand as well. Just trying to ride this Phoenix to victory. Boswell does not have a lot going on, and he's still without white mana. And to even turn on Wingmate Rock, it would take 2 sources of white mana in a row for him to get back into this game. As here's an attack for 4. Boswell's going to go down to 9. Boswell will draw a card. It's a Courser of Kruphix. That's not a bad start.
Especially if he can flip over some white mana here.
Yep. And for Boswell, what might be the best course of action here after attacking, of course, is to play this Courser. Hopefully he turns over a white mana, and the top card staring back at him is a Siege Rhino. Let's see what this top card is.
All right, this is a start.
That's Sandstep Citadel. That's going to put him up to 10. And that's an Elspeth. Now, he does need another white mana for that, but it's not a bad spot to be in. I think if you're Strong, you probably got to kill this Courser. Yeah, he's going to Hero's Downfall that.
Too big of a risk that Boswell finds a second white mana on his turn.
Courser of Kruphix the draw here for Strong. So he will deploy the 2/4. Let's see what his top card is now. It's a copy of Rakshasa Death Dealer. Here is a Thoughtseize from Strong. He's going to get the Wingmate Rock. He'll go down to 10 to do that. Again, Strong knows that on top of Boswell's deck is a copy of Elspeth. So back to Boswell we go. He will draw the Elspeth. He can't cast it. He's only got 1 source of white mana there in the Citadel. All he can do is just pass the turn back, still getting beaten down by this Phoenix.
This Phoenix is the real deal.
Yeah.
I mean, this game, it's been overwhelming how good this card's been.
It's a lethal attack, so of course Boswell has to block. He's going to go down to 2. Strong is going to play the Death Dealer now, left with the Hero's Downfall and the Grip Bile-Blight on top of the deck. Boswell's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Utter End. And Boswell's just going to pass the turn back. That Utter End is not going to save him in this game. He'll see a Rakshasa Death Dealer on top. For Boswell, I think what's actually kind of important there is that, 1, he doesn't give away the information about Utter End being in his deck, depending on how much Strong keeps up with what Lax played. But 2, he also does have outs in his deck to Ash Cloud Phoenix, which is a big deal.
Yeah, he has 2 copies of Utter End, so he can get out from under it.
He clearly did not find the cards to do that game. That's why Thomas Strong does win game number 1 here with his Jund mid-range deck over Andrew Boswell playing Abzan mid-range, and we will take a look at the Abzan mid-range's sideboard.
It's very similar to what Ari Lax was doing. A Doom Blast, a Mass Calcify, and Hostilities, a Liliana Vest, 2 copies of Murderous Cut, 3 Bile Blight, 3 Drown in Sorrow, 2 Nissa World Waker, and an Unravel the Aether. I think this seems like the type of matchup where you can actually go into Doom Blast, Mass Calcify, and Hostilities, Liliana territory. It's going to be on the slower side. Yep. I think on top of that, you can bring in the 2 Nissas and the 2 Murderous Cuts as well. Just more removal, more staying power.
Other side of things, 2 Chandra Pyromaster, 2 Magma Spray, 2 copies of Brain Maggot, 4 Drown and Sorrow, 2 Read the Bones, and 3 Acclamation Sage. Speaking of things going longer, you've got some nice options here for Strong. 3 Read the Bones, 2 Chandras, and then these 2 Brain Maggots are a little bit interesting because what's going to happen is you get to take a card. Does the opponent want to use a removal spell on that sort of card? It's basically, this weird discard effect where I get to take your card, then if you want to get your card back, you have to Hero's Downfall or something to get it back.
I'm not a huge fan of Brain Maggot in these kind of matchups because the 1/1 body means close to nothing.
Basically nothing, yeah.
So are you willing to pay 2 mana for a discard spell that your opponent has the option of getting out of by killing it? Especially if you're predicting that Andrew's going to be bringing in some sweepers anyway. I think that Brain Maggot's pretty poor here. I would want it for, the Jeskai Ascendancy matchup. I would want it for something like that, or even just really fast beatdown decks where you're looking to trade early and often and maybe break up their curve. I think it makes sense there, but against a deck like Abzan midrange, I think it's hard pressed for that card to do very much.
Well, one of these decks did very well at the Pro Tour. Not entirely sure how much Jund midrange was played at the Pro Tour. Definitely wasn't a breakout deck, but it's looking pretty good right now. Up a game, we saw Betcher playing a version as well. You can play either one of these decks every week. Star City Games game night.
Yeah, and we are moving the dates, or rather giving you the option to move the dates. The initial push for game night was every Wednesday night, and we are changing that. Run it whatever evening you want during the week, or day for that matter. What you see in front of you right now is the October kit. There's new kits coming every month, so if you're interested in getting signed up, you should head over to StarCityGames.com/game night and get more information there. Store owners, you should be running this program, and players, if you're interested, make sure to be talking to your store or TO about it, because these kits are not expensive and we've been getting a really good reception for this. Good attendance, good turnout, and a lot of fun. Sanctioned, unsanctioned, however you want to run it, just get players in your store playing on whatever night you feel like.
And they can find out who's the boss.
Who's the man?
Yeah. I feel kind of bad for doing that, but not really that bad.
There's a lot of ooze puns.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically unlimited design space, so you can't.
It's just always wide open.
It's always wide open.
Ooze is the pin and tokens for the month of October. We'll have new stuff for you guys in November as well. StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. As we do turn our attention back to game number 2 here between Strong and Boswell. Again, I don't know how much Jund there was at the Pro Tour, but as you mentioned, the plan of just kind of Rabble Master, Courser, Hero's Downfall, Thoughtseize, those are all very powerful cards. In the case here of Strong, he doesn't have Rabble Master in his 75 anywhere, but the red cards that he does have, Sark and Ashcloud Phoenix and Stormbreath Dragon, all look pretty good.
Ashcloud Phoenix was, I mean, it was better than any other card in the format. He could have played that game, basically.
Yeah.
Boswell had multiple copies of Hero's Downfall in his hand and just couldn't do anything about it.
Feel free to kill it. I don't mind.
Yep.
I will take my morph and I will unmorph it and beat you down some more.
You want to use 2 Hero's Downfalls on it? Okay.
No, you don't.
Kill you with something else.
Yeah, kill you with the Stormbreath Dragon I have now. It may have taken a little bit longer to catch on, I think, than people may have expected, but it looks, thus far, through, again, almost 4 rounds of Magic, to be quite good. It's shown up a lot where I did not expect it to.
Well, it's easy to get caught up on a card's downside, and Magma Spray's a card in the format. I think people anticipated that Utter End was going to be all over the place, and the Phoenix is not the best threat against that kind of card. But if you are just trying to play to the ground and play with regular 1-for-1 removal spells, Phoenix is going to cause you all sorts of trouble.
We'll see what Boswell can put together here for game number 2. Definitely some mana issues last game, but I think he's got plenty of white mana in his deck, right? He's got Sandstone, Citadel. He's got a couple of plains, 2 of those, 2 copies of Caves and Coleos. Seems like maybe just the bad side of variance there.
Yeah, 4 Windswept Heaths. He's got white sources, but he does need double white, which is not the easiest thing to put together.
Yeah.
I mean, double white by turn 5 is probably going to happen in most games.
But it's
but
got carry added too, 4 of those. So I can't imagine most games that white mana will be an issue. Just happen to be an issue that game.
Well, it was double white mana. I mean, even if he had a single plains, it wouldn't have unlocked the cards in his hand he couldn't cast.
Yeah.
So.
His Abzan Charm got taken both times before he was able to cast it anyway, before he even got to 3 mana because of the Thought Seizes. So this is true. But Boswell, again, very familiar with these kind of strategies, getting second place in the modern Grand Prix that was in Worcester back in August. Oddly enough, 2 floors underneath us with Jund. Lost to Abzan in the finals.
Yep.
So, and this will be interesting, the sideboarding games here, I think, because again, Ari had this sideboard, and as a result, Boswell has a sideboard that's really good in kind of these Abzan or Jund kind of mid-range green mirrors, where he's got cards like Dune Blast and Mass Calcify is a home run in this matchup.
Yeah.
You know, he's got some really big haymakers and hostilities too. All those wrath effects are quite good.
No, this list, Ari's list essentially, is tuned to have an edge in similar matchups. Now, Tom's threat base and answer base is different than, say, the Abzan Mirror, but it's a lot of the same principles. Some amount of mana acceleration, quality threats, some catch-all removal spells, and the bigger you go, the better, because you're rarely going to get punished. It's hard to get tempoed out of the game, but you can overpower people with just 6-7 mana spells.
And as much as we've talked about Ashclaw Phoenix and how great it has looked on camera, you know, a natural answer to that card is a card like Gutter End, which Boswell does have a couple copies in his main deck. And, you know, there's a world that exists, right, where if Ashclaw Phoenix picks up, that means Utter Ends pick up. And so now you maybe have, you know, 4 of those on one side and 4 of those on the other. And now I'm kind of thinking about how metagames are cyclical. It's like, if people are doing that, again, give me that Foundry Tree Denizen.
Or give me Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah. It's also a really nice option.
You know, it's nice when the threats and answers are diverse and good against certain things and not good against others. It's the metagame and standard is generally going to be really good.
We haven't seen very many hyper-aggressive decks thus far throughout the format. Again, I know that players tried at the beginning, and you know, maybe it's what Doomwake Giant is where Ross really did clean up on people in Week 1 in New Jersey, saying he played against a lot of hyper-aggressive and token decks where Doomwake was great. You know, again, things are kind of getting in this cyclical nature where, okay, that Devotion deck with Doomwake Giant doesn't look very good right now, so maybe we can go back to doing some, you know, low-to-the-ground stuff, like maybe Mono Black aggro, a deck that hasn't really seen a lot of play, but it seems like all the tools are there. You hate that deck, don't you?
Whatever I was doing was not good. That's all I know for now. Maybe it's different, or maybe I was playing with the wrong cards, but my deck was really bad.
Temple of Malady is where Boswell's going to begin. Here's the Temple of Abandon for Strong. Maybe you just had the wrong configuration.
I played against a lot of Game 1 Anger of the Gods in my defense.
Well, that's hard to beat.
But still.
Sylvan Carry added on turn number 2 for Boswell. So white mana is not a problem this game. Thoughtseize here for Strong. Let's see what Boswell's working with this game. He's got a Courser, an Abzan Charm, a Bile-Blight, a Hero's Downfall, and a Windswept Heath. So a pretty good hand. I think what's interesting about this situation is what card do you take between Courser and Abzan Charm? I imagine those are the 2 best cards to choose from.
Probably Courser, given that there's a Windswept Heath in Boswell's hand, although if Tom is overloaded on creature removal, maybe he takes the Charm.
And Tom does have a copy of Hero's Downfall in his hand. He also has a Courser of his own. So I don't think that Hero's Downfall and Bile-Blight are up for grabs in this situation.
I'd be surprised.
100% correct, but it seems like the two most powerful cards, are Courser and Charm.
Bile-Blight seems to be the worst card in the hand by far.
Yes.
And then I think there's an argument for all of them, with Courser and Charm being the most compelling.
He's going to take the Charm. The flexibility of that card is undeniable. Boswell will draw a copy of Wingmate Rock. Now here's the Courser. Top card here for the Boz is a Forest, so that's going to come directly into play. He's going to go up to 21. Let's see what the next card's going to be. That's a copy of Dune Blast. Strong is going to have to be cognizant of that.
That is an interesting card to have revealed.
Yes, it is. This is a thing that I can do. What Strong doesn't know about is the Wingmate Rock in Boswell's hand. No, don't forget, Strong does have a copy of Hero's Downfall in his hand, so he can play a 3rd land and just say, all right, downfall your Courser, get that off the table. But he's going to play a Courser of his own first. There's Ashclaw Phoenix. And, you know, again, the thought process here for Tom is I can just play a Courser and maybe Hero's Downfall your next threat. The problem here for Strong is that his next threat for Boswell is actually 2 threats.
Exactly. It's troubled in both directions. I don't think there's a great answer here for Strong.
Boswell's going to play the Plains off the top of his deck. Not going to play the Windswept Heath just yet. Going to go up to 22. Top card of the deck is another Courser of Crewfix. He can, of course, stack with his Courser, and that's that sinking feeling where it's like, oh, you're attacking, huh? Well, first of all, Strong may not be safe blocking because of a card like Abzan Charm giving +2/+2, but he does choose to block there, which ends up being correct. And there's not going to be a Bile-Blight on the Courser because that would kill Boswell's Courser, so now it's just time to go to the Rock.
Welcome to the Rock.
Yes.
The thing is, if Boswell's follow-up is Wingmate Rock, it's not like Strong can afford to just take 2 points of damage for no reason.
Of course.
So he's forced to block, even though Boswell might have been following up with Charm, as you mentioned.
Ashclaw Phoenix is the draw for Strong, and Ashclaw Phoenix is the top card of his deck, and he's going to deploy the Phoenix here. So now we'll see how good the Phoenix is when you're kind of behind a little bit. You know, there are Wingmate Rocks staring you down, looking to get in the red zone. Boswell's got Courser going. There's a Moo Cow and Siege Rhino.
There's a what?
I said a Moo Cow.
A moo cow.
Yeah. It moos. That's what rhinos do.
I'm pretty sure that's not even close
Look
to the
it up.
case.
That's what they do.
We can talk about this off air.
Sure can. Or we can do it on air. They moo.
Well, no, they don't. That's okay.
3 mana here. Boswell going to play a Courser. Really get some life now. He's going to gain 2. Go up to 24. Here's 2 mana. Looks like he's going to take 1 from the caves. This Bioblight's going to clear out the Phoenix. That's going to put it face down, which means the air is perfectly safe for him to move into.
And Strong's so far away from unmorphing that, you know, even though Boswell's kind of down in a card advantage sense, the tempo he's generating off of this is too good.
He's just far ahead.
Yeah.
And so now the Wingmate Rock is going to attack. Of course, when Wingmate Rock attacks, there's a trigger. You gain a life for each creature that did attack, so he's going to gain some life here. And Courser is actually safe to attack here because, yeah, Courser can just run a Courser, and that's fine because you get your life. But if Strong's feeling a little frisky and wants to double block to get Courser off the table, Boswell says, all right, I'll trade my Courser for your Phoenix.
Yeah.
And that's okay, too.
Although there isn't a lot to be gained by the attack because it's purely optional on Strong's side. Like, the cards are face up in essence. So maybe Strong feels like it is worth a double block there.
Potentially. But, I mean, getting 1 Courser off the table isn't really that big of a deal, and there's already another Courser on the table, too.
Oh, it's pretty much safe, although, you know, it just seems like you're giving Strong the option to do whatever he wants there.
Sure.
You're not pinning him in any sense.
Temple's going to gain Strong a little bit of life, and he's going to look at another copy of Ashcloud Phoenix. Again, this will be telling if Ashcloud Phoenix is good on defense, too. We already saw how good it was on offense. Looks like Strong's going to play another one of these and pass the turn back over to Boswell. Boswell could sacrifice his fetch land to get a new draw, but doesn't really get much better than that.
I want to draw that one.
Bioblight, the top card. So we'll see what Andrew does want to do on this turn, how he wants to go about attacking. See, he's got the Doom Blast in his hand. He's got a Hero's Downfall. Hero's Downfall could clear out the Ashcloud Phoenix to make the air safe still.
Well, it means he's short on mana to be able to cast the Siege Rhino as well.
Yep.
Now, he may not want to deploy the Siege Rhino because he's trying to set up the Doom Blast, but...
Yeah, Doom Blast is interesting in this game because it just gives him something else to play towards. You know, right now he's kind of in the driver's seat, just playing this, you know, kill your guy, keep attacking game, but if everything kind of goes wrong, he can play this, all right, I'll Doom Blast you game instead.
Yeah. And I think that maybe Boswell should consider starting off this turn by just sacrificing the Windswept Heath, because it feels like a Bioblight's not a great draw for him at this stage, and the upshot of finding a land here is huge. So it could give him more information to work with and a roll with the dice of finding a land.
I guess the question is, does he really need a land?
It wouldn't be bad. I mean, he's short on the mana to cast Doom Blast currently, so being able to solidify that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, like, Doom Blast is a card that's in his hand. Right now, if I'm Boswell, Doom Blast is a card that's in my hand that has no text. Like, I would only want to sacrifice my Windswept Teeth and the off chance of finding a land to play Hero's Downfall and Siege Rhino on the same turn. I have no interest in Doom Blasting my opponent this game.
Sure.
Unless something goes horribly wrong. Because there's definitely a benefit of, like, cracking the fetch land, seeing a land on top of your deck, playing the Rhino, pushing your advantage further. But I think this is still a pretty good turn. He's going to gain 4 life.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this turn. It's just, what's Bioblight worth versus a random draw, especially when you consider the upshot of finding a land on the top.
Sure, I mean, Bioblight's still okay in this situation.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm not thrilled by it. I mean, because, you know, if you Bioblight the morph, it doesn't kill both the morphs. You know, that's not how it works, but I don't hate it.
This is fine, too. Also, the upshot of finding a land here is it allows you to go Hero's Downfall and
Rhino.
Right, which is a big swing.
Yeah.
Basically locks the game up.
I think the thing here is that the game may just be kind of locked up anyway at this point. You see Strong's going to double block here. The 2 morphs, both of which are Ashcloud Phoenix, is on a Courser and then a Courser running into a Courser. So 1 morph will die. 1 Phoenix will go to the bin. And then Courses will run into each other, and then 6 damage will be dealt. Strong will go down to 6. And then again, Boswell has the option to sacrifice the Windswept Teeth now if he wants to or not, but he's happy drawing a Bile Blight.
Yeah, there's no way he would be sacrificing at this point because it would have been so much better to start off the turn by sacrificing and see what was going on. So Boswell must really want to draw Bile Blight here.
And Bile Blight clears the way for his flyer again, right?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with taking it here. I just think that most of his draws are going to be comparable with the upshot of finding a land.
Sure. Here's 5 mana, so that's Sarkhan. That's going to take down the rock. So Boswell left with just 1 3/4 flyer. But still ahead in this game, and still has the reset button in case anything goes wrong there with the Dune Blast. Now Boswell can decide if he wants to draw this Bile Blight or not. Now things are a little bit different, where maybe I do, maybe I don't. It still clears the road in case you do play Phoenix, so I will draw it, and there's a copy of Abzan Charm. That's a good draw, too. That'll be coming next turn. Now Boswell does have an interesting decision to make, I think, on if he wants to try to take care of Sarkhan with the flyer, or if he just keeps going after Strong's life total, because he can also play a Rhino and put Strong down to 1 if he does that.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be that much of an incentive to get the Sarkhan off the table this turn, because all it can do is attack Boswell for 4. Boswell's on 30. That doesn't even matter. So I would probably keep pushing at his life total at this point. Because next turn you do have a lethal attack even if Strong unmorphs the Phoenix. And in fact, he can't unmorph the Phoenix anymore because he's at 1.
Yep. So we'll figure out where these attackers are going. I would be surprised. Let's see what this is going to be. Yeah, 3 damage. Looks like it's going to come across. We're not going after Sarkhan. I would have been surprised if he was. Here's 2, 3, and 4. Looks like he's considering a Siege Rhino, but he does untap his lands very quickly.
Yeah, if he taps for the Siege Rhino like this, he doesn't have the option of casting Bile Blight.
Oh, but he does. There's an Urborg.
Oh, there's an Urborg.
Yes.
Yep, never mind. It all works.
My question is if Boswell realizes that there's an Urborg in play. I imagine that he does. He's going to play the Siege Rhino. Boswell's going to go up to 33. Strong's going to go down to 1. And now he can actually cast the Bile Blight off of the Windswept Teeth and the Sylvan Caryatid. Downfall is the draw there for Strong. Stormbreath Dragon is the card revealed to the Courser. And still, Boswell's got to be feeling great about this. I mean, Windswept Teeth comes into play. Of course, that taps for a black mana because of the Urborg, but he can't sacrifice it really for anything. You see Sarkhan go up.
This is a little bit troubled, right? Like Strong gets to cast 2 downfalls on the Siege Rhino and the Rock token.
Yeah.
I mean, and Sarkhan's still in play. I don't know. This is not as locked up for Boswell as it would appear.
We're definitely still playing some Magic. There's a Liliana. Again, it's nice for Boswell to have that reset in his hand in Dune Blast. And Abzan Charm is a really nice draw this turn as well. Don't know how he plans on using the Charm just yet. He's going to tap some mana here. Looks like he's going to cast a Bile Blight. Ooh, and Boswell. Okay, so Boswell looks like he took 1.
And this use of Bile Blight is a huge win for Strong because he had no intention of doing anything with this Phoenix anyway. He's just blocking and casting 2 downfalls. The Phoenix was completely locked out of the game because Strong's at 1, he can't unmorph it. So this is almost like a free Bile Blight that Strong just got.
And Boswell, the big problem here, I think, for Boswell is that he ended up taking 1 damage. Now I think he's going to realize, okay, you have an Urborg in play, so I shouldn't have taken that 1. Maybe it doesn't come back to hurt him or not. Now, the Abzan Charm is actually still pretty good here because you can go, okay, +2/+2 on my Courser, kill your Courser, which is a pretty good turn.
Yeah, but then you're risking, if Strong has some sort of follow-up or answer to that Courser, then there's even more trouble.
Yep. Either way, Boswell's Courser is going to become a 4/6 now. It beats Strong's Courser. And that'll be Boswell's turn again. He's got the Dune Blast in his hand and a Liliana on top of his deck. Strong is drawing a Stormbreath Dragon for the turn. He's already got a Sarkhan in play, but he's at 1, so he can't do anything with that fetch land. No cracking that and reshuffling. Now, of course, Boswell does know what's in Strong's hand. He knows about the Ash Cloud Phoenix because Courser has been leaking information. So he knows everything that Strong has access to except for the top card of his deck, which nobody knows.
Yep. And you can see this is why this sort of setup was why I was an advocate for shuffling away that Bile Blight to begin with, because it just didn't feel like better than any of his average draws at this stage.
Strong is going to play an Ash Cloud Phoenix and pass the turn back. Boswell, he's going to untap. Again, the card in his hand is a Dune Blast. And now Boswell's deciding, okay, do I want to sacrifice this Windswept before drawing this Liliana? And the answer is yes. So he's going to go down and then back up from Courser. So down to 23, and as long as he remembers the trigger, he's going to go up to 24. And now the big question here is a mystery card better than drawing the Liliana?
Probably, because he has a fair number of lethal draws. And he basically gets 2 looks at a land regardless, because it's Liliana versus, it's like draw the Liliana and have Heath plus the top of my deck versus draw step, this draw step plus the next. So in terms of finding the 7th land, it's a wash, but I don't think the Liliana does very much. And Siege Rhino is a pretty big incentive here to shuffle the deck.
Manic Influence is the draw. Let's see what the top card is. Another Courser. And you know, casting Dune Blast on this board just isn't all that great.
Well, it's lethal.
Well, I mean, the Phoenix dies and it comes back.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
And then
so
it's a chump.
Yeah, and then he gets a chump. So, I mean, we're still playing Magic.
Yeah, he can do it. He can do it in the opposite order.
Yes.
Yes, and clean it out.
So now he just plays that, you know, he attacks, the Phoenix dies, it comes back as a morph, and now Strong's going to draw a mystery card. I believe that was another copy of Sarkin, which is awkward in that, like, he can use the Sarkin he has in play.
He can minus and minus again.
Yeah, he can just go, you know, use the Sarkin I have in play, minus to hit your Courser for 4, play my other Sarkin.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. It's fine because he's at 1 and it keeps him alive. You know,
Yeah.
It's not the sexiest play, but he's not dead, which is more important.
Exactly. And Boswell knew that the card left over in Strong's hand was a
Storm Breath.
which does nothing to stop him in that situation. So holding onto the Dune Blast in that spot makes a lot of sense. You can see both players knowing about a Dune Blast.
It changes the way the game is played.
Yes.
Another Courser is going to show up. The top card now is Sorin, Solemn Visitor. For Strong, he draws another copy of Ash Cloud Phoenix, which, oddly enough, makes Dune Blast not nearly as good as it normally would be. Sarkin's going to go up. So we're probably going to have at least an attack for 4 here in the air, and we do. So now Boswell's down to 20. Strong's got a long way to go here, but it's not a bad start, as now he's going to tap 4 mana and play another Phoenix and just pass the turn back. So back to Boswell we're going to go with that Dune Blast in hand, that Sorin on top of his deck.
And this is actually kind of sweet here for Strong because he can just chump block with the morph.
Yes.
And then Dune Blast is still not something that Boswell can go to just yet.
Murderous Cut is the top card of the deck. So now let's see what's going to happen. And Boswell knows about the removal spell on top of his deck now, as does Strong. It looks like he's going to cast this Dune Blast. And this is still a fine turn. You know, Boswell has to say, okay, what creature am I going to keep? It's going to be the Courser. So that's going to die. Your Phoenix is going to turn down. I'm going to lose my carry added. I'm going to attack you for lethal. So now you have to block with your Phoenix. So that clears that out of the way. You're still left with a Sarkin, which is a little bit annoying. I know you have a Stormbreath Dragon in your hand, but I have a Murderous Cut for the Stormbreath Dragon, so what are you going to draw to get yourself out of this?
And Boswell needs to pull the trigger on the play that turn, because if he waits the following turn, well, Strong gets to plus the Sarkin this turn, and the next turn can use his Sarkin to kill the Courser. So he has to pull the trigger on this turn to prevent that line of play.
And Tom drew a land for the turn along with the Stormbreath Dragon. The Murderous Cut staring him back in the face, knows he can't beat it, and he's going to concede the game. So Andrew Boswell is going to win game number 2 here over Thomas Strong. Abs on mid-range ties things up here against Jun mid-range, and we'll see if either player does go back to the sideboard here. And it looks like Boswell's moving a couple of cards out. What you can tell, however, over these 2 games that we have seen is that Ash Cloud Phoenix changes the way that Boswell has to play the game.
Yes, it is a very challenging card for Boswell to answer. Really only the 2 copies of Utter End in the main deck, and then he's got some sort of sideways ways to fight it, or using 2 cards, but it is problematic.
Patrick, our loyal Twitter followers, thank goodness for them. All of you guys that are watching, we do appreciate it today, especially you, Liam ODC, who has told me that the Indian Rhinoceros makes a wide variety of vocalizations. So it is possible that it does moo.
Insofar as mooing is a sound and that answer isn't terribly specific, yes, it's possible. It's also possible that it speaks the English language, but we know that's probably not what that means, right?
It very well could. We're not sure if it does or does not. I suppose an animal can be trained to do almost anything.
All right, well, let's going to go ahead and
Some players also wondering at home, is there any reason that maybe Boswell didn't just draw the Liliana then tutor for a Rhino? I imagine that was on his radar as a play to make, because Strong is at 1. A Rhino's going to win the game, so maybe it's just better to just say, okay, I'll take my Liliana, I'll play my Liliana, -2 it, get a Rhino on top of my deck, and can you actually just beat a Rhino on top of my deck staring back at you? Chances are probably not, so maybe the game got a little bit riskier for Boswell than it needed to.
Yeah, I don't know if he's playing around the possibility of Strong being able to gain life. I don't know if that's on his radar or
Sure.
not. Just looking here for ecology and behavior.
Ah, yes. This sounds like a great new creature for the creature collection. We need some Rhinos.
A mooing rhino.
Yes. That's very important. All I'm saying is, if Loxodon and Hierarch can move, why can't Siege Rhinoceros?
Well, Loxodon Hierarch also can't moo because, one, it's an elephant, and two, it's supposed to be like a humanoid elephant. So it probably just talks English or whatever the Loxodon language is.
Neat. I'm talking English too. Moo.
That doesn't mean the same thing.
Too.
And it also doesn't moo.
I think you're not correct about this. You'll have to talk to some of your cool friends you choose to play Magic with. Loxodon Hierarch 100% moves when it comes into playing games for life. And I believe that Siege Rhinoceros does as well.
Okay.
I'll have to ask Brian Bronduin. He knows quite a bit about the Rhino tribe.
Our local biologist.
That's correct. Looks like Strong is taking a mulligan here while the Boz has kept his 7.
I guess it's possible that certain breeds of rhinos moo, though I can't tell. The cursory glance I gave to Wikipedia was not conclusive. But I don't know if it's its defining noise.
Well, remember this. Everything you find on the internet is not true. So the internet could say that it doesn't move. That's not factual. It's just what you read. Not everything on the internet is true, Patrick.
Right. The another fallback for the person arguing in bad faith. You read it on the internet, well, it could be a lie.
That's
yeah,
right.
I suppose that's true, but
That's
we're trying.
right.
We're doing the best that we can to generate the information that we have available.
Let's see if Strong can find a 6 that he is happy with. He's got at least a Wooded Foothills. I think a Temple of Bandit as well. He's going to keep it. He's going to lead off with the Temple. It's time to scry. That top card goes on top of very quickly. So back to Boz we go. A Plains is the draw for him. He's got a Windswept Heath there. He's also got a copy of Llanowar, so he's just going to play the Plains and pass the turn back.
Stain the mind. That could be a reason to not tutor for Rhino there.
Okay.
That's the best thing I can think of.
Okay.
Which is not, like, Tom has one copy in his sideboard and brought it in. That's not impossible.
Yeah, it's not inconceivable.
And the game actually gets away from Boswell in a big way, I think, if he runs that play. I don't know. The line that Boswell took was pretty safe, so I like it fine.
Bloodstained Mire is the land there for Strong. You see Boswell plays a fetch land of his own in Windswept Heath, so now it's turn 3. Strong has another fetch land. He will sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire, going down to 19 in the process. He does have a Thoughtseize in his hand in case he does want to cast that. There's a Swamp.
It feels like right before the third turn is the flashpoint where you want to be thought-seizing the Obzon deck, because that's when they start doing something. It's Courser or Charming or whatever.
When you speak of Charm, it's in the grip. There's also a Mass Calcify, a Siege Rhino, an Elspeth, and a Sorin, along with 2 lands. So Boswell's got things to do, and he's got the mana to do them.
Yeah, cannot cut him off of action. He can try to cut him off of card advantage here, take the Charm, and then try to slog through this, but Boswell's hand's got a lot of power in it.
It's a hand that saying it's weak to Ash Cloud Phoenix is probably incorrect, because he can, play a Sorin and make a Vampire and try to block with it and stuff. I wouldn't feel great if my opponent played Ash Cloud Phoenix next turn.
Not on this hand. I mean, you can fight over the Siege Rhino and the Sorin, and then the Phoenix is a headache once again.
However, Strong's hand right now is 2 copies of Stormbreath Dragon and a couple of lands. Boswell will draw another copy of Siege Rhino. From what I've been told, they kind of run in packs. It's either, 3.
Actually, I think they're solitary animals is what the Wikipedia page said.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'll double check. But
Strong's going to sacrifice this Wooded Foothills.
I think most of them sort of exist in solitude.
Down to 16 is Strong. We'll see what he's able to draw on this turn. Again, 2 copies of Stormbreath Dragon, and then 2 lands over there, a Wooded Foothills and a Mountain. Tom draws his cards. Copy of Bloodstained Mire, not what he was looking for.
Yeah, he's definitely heavy on mana right now with just some dragons.
Boswell going to draw a copy of Courser of Crufix for the turn. He brings the Mana Confluence forward just a touch. That'll be land number 4. Sacrifice the Foothills. He'll go down to 19 and do that. I imagine we're going to see a Rhino here in just a moment. This card is kind of the thorn in everybody's side. 5 toughness is a lot. Trample makes it very difficult to chump block effectively. Comes in, drains and gains.
Got a lot of the Thragtusk elements to it.
Really does.
Except this card's much worse against a removal spell than Thragtusk was. Which is a huge difference, of course.
Of course. There can only be 1 Thragtusk.
Yeah.
So Boswell going to gain a little bit, Strong going to lose a little bit of life, and now the race is certainly on.
So you see the Siege Rhino in that artwork, and you imagine it's mooing.
That's
I imagine it's screaming obscenities. That's what I see.
Yeah. I see it mooing very loudly.
Just cursing at the person at the other side of the table.
Strong going to get himself a second Swamp here so he can cast Hero's Downfall and the like moving forward.
But whatever, that's why it's a fantasy universe. You get to interpret the art to some extent.
Best part, Magic.
Yeah. It is open to your own interpretation.
See, when I see the picture of Siege Rhino, I actually kind of just see it like kind of cut off a little bit, which looks like a little strange to me. There's like half a Rhino looks like walking kind of through a portal.
Yep.
Which probably is just not true
wandering
at all.
through the sandy dunes of wherever the Abzan people hang out.
Here's a Stormbreath Dragon. And that's just going to hang back on defense. Of course, protection from white against the Rhino. Boswell will draw.
Yeah, Strong not really in a position to race here, even though he hasn't, Boswell hasn't really attacked here. Thoughts he uses in the lands and so forth. And then the Rhino trigger.
Yeah. The tough thing here for Strong is the Mass Calcify that's hiding out in Boswell's hand. Now, the second Rhino makes things a little bit more difficult too. But if Strong's plan is, okay, I'll just play another Stormbreath Dragon, I'll defend against both of them. All right, Mass Calcify. Kill your Stormbreath Dragons, keep my Rhinos, and let's keep doing this.
Well, Boswell's stuck on lands here. By stuck, I mean he's on 4.
Yeah.
But the Mass Calcify is not, that's the least of Strong's problems right now.
This is true. Here's 3 mana. He's going to work his way towards a Courser now, it looks like. Yep. Take a look at the top card. It's a copy of Llanowar Waste. That's going to come into play. Strong's going to go up to 10. We'll see what the next card is. It's a copy of Ash Cloud Phoenix. He does have the red mana to cast it. He also has one of those, and again, Stormbreath Dragon in his hand. Boswell's going to untap here in just a moment, as Strong has no interest in attacking. So let's see what Boswell draws on this turn. It's a Stand Step Citadel, excuse me.
A little surprised to see Strong not just cast a morph there. Because it feels like hard casting the Phoenix just does nothing. His mana is going to be committed doing other things for a while. Maybe he goes monsters with the Stormbreath Dragon, maybe draws removal spells. And he's not also, it just lines up so poorly against Siege Rhino when it's on defense. It's kind of a small thing, but I think I would have morphed.
Looks like it may be time for a Courser. It is. So let's take a look at the top card here for Boswell. It's a copy of Caves of Kolios. He's going to put that directly into play. Gain a life. Take a look at the top card. Now, I do wonder about playing that versus the Stand Step Citadel.
I was about to say the same thing. I understand a card's a card. You don't want to give that up. But with his hand loaded with as much 6 and 7 mana spells as it has, there's a lot of value in just getting your comes into play tap land out of the way, even at the expense of a card, to allow you to cast your Elspeth on time.
Now, of course, there is a world that exists where Boswell draws Elspeth for his turn. The top card is an untapped land, and everything works out perfectly fine, but there's no guarantee that does happen.
It depends what the follow-up play is if he misses, and Soren's still pretty solid here for Boswell, so I think it's fine maybe to get a little bit greedier.
Boswell's going to untap. He's going to draw that Elspeth. Let's take a look at the top card here. It's a Thoughtseize. So that'll be the draw for next turn. Potentially for this turn if he does want to use the drawing mode of Abzan Charm. But it looks like Andrew's going to maybe play that Stand Step Citadel this turn. We'll see what else he wants to do. Looks like he's trying to set up a pretty nice Mass Calcify.
Yeah, it's close.
There's a Citadel. Of course, Courser will gain a life off of that. Boswell reaching for some mana here. He's just going to pass the turn back. And I like this, I like this course of action of, I could cast Sorin this turn. It's not great because these flyers are out here. I don't really have to do anything.
There is no rush on Boswell's side of the table here. Strong is really light on action. He can't attack, and he has to be concerned about Mass Calcify the whole way through. Yep. So no reason to pull the trigger.
Now, of course, Strong does have, 7 mana in play. So Stormwrath Dragon can go monstrous, but Boswell's at 24. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Strong's going to sacrifice the Wooded Foothills, lose a life and gain a life, of course. So he's going to stay at 11. He's going to search up a land here, get himself a basic forest. Top card will be new for Courser. And again, he hasn't played a land yet this turn.
Abzan Charm plus the Courser gives him so many looks at the land for Mass Calcify that he can afford to take a lump here from Stormbreath Dragon if that's all that Strong can bring to the table.
Yeah. And Mass Calcify is actually on right now.
Yeah.
Because Sansa Citadel is land number 6, triple white and then 3 colorless. So next turn he can just opt to untap. Oh, excuse me, it costs 7. I take it back. I thought it cost 6. Thinking of a different Wrath effect.
I think that if it cost 6, it would have just showed up in a lot of random decks.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. The Phoenix is going to come into the red zone. Well, I guess maybe, yeah. I could definitely see now, after Strong didn't play the Death Dealer here, of just saying, yeah, okay, draw a couple cards with Abzan Charm, try to Mass Calcify you.
And even if he doesn't find the land for Mass Calcify, he probably finds a removal spell for the Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah.
Finds a Hero's Downfall or something. He's got a lot of looks.
There's Brain Maggot on top of Courser. Of course, destroy all non-white creatures. So there is the ability to regenerate and stuff like that with the Death Dealer. If that's what Strong wants to play this turn. Looks like he's considering that as an option.
The problem is that there's also a lot of leftovers in Boswell's hand, besides this Mass Calcify.
Not only are there a lot of leftovers, but there are a lot of good cards. There's another Phoenix, pass the turn back. Let's see if Boswell's going to Abzan Charm. Looks like he is. He's going to take 1 here.
He gets a lot of looks.
Yep. Thoughtseize, Caves, that's land 7. Top card, Murderous Cut. Gonna untap, draw the cut for the turn. Top card now is a Sorin. You want to talk about power level of a deck.
It's a lot of hits.
And really drawing a bad card.
No Foundry Street Denizens in this deck.
No kidding. The worst card he may have drawn over this entire game was what, Murderous Cut, maybe?
Probably Abzan Charm.
That's not the worst card. That card's way too good. That card's unbelievable.
Actually, this is the lowest power level card he's cast.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And it's game over.
Yeah. Now, I believe the Courser for Boswell's going to die. Yeah, so that's going to go to the bin.
Shucks.
Yeah. It's a rough road, except for these rhinos are coming to the red zone now.
So I read on the Wikipedia page that adult males are solitary creatures except for mating and fighting.
Okay.
Which makes sense right now. They are fighting. And 2, makes them more like people than perhaps we gave them credit for.
You gave them credit for. I always gave them credit.
Right.
And there's going to be a chump block, but that is rather ineffective, of course, because the rhino does trample. So Strong has his entire board decimated by Mass Calcify. He will draw a card. He does have a Stormbreath Dragon. Here's 2 mana. There's a Brain Maggot. Let me see your awesome hand.
Yeah.
Like Elspeth. Okay, 2 Elspeths, excuse me. Sorin, a Murderous Cut, and a Thoughtseize.
Whew, boy. That's a lot to work through. He just has to take Murderous Cut here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the only way he has a hope of even blocking.
Yeah. That's what it'll take. Yeah, what makes this deck so tough, right, is even if Strong slogs through these 2 rhinos, let's say he just somehow gets through these 2 rhinos. All right, I got some Elspeths. Can you beat those? It is unlikely. See what Boswell wants to play here.
I mean, even just Sorin plus attack is a headache.
Make him 5 power creatures, yeah. Can't forget about the lifelink as well, making this game go longer and longer and longer. That means more draw steps for Boswell. Soren's going to come in. Those Rhinos are 5-5, trampling lifelinkers now. Now Strong's got to figure out how to block.
So he can put Storm Breath and Brain Maggot in front of one, chump block the other.
That makes it so he takes the least amount of trample damage.
Yeah, this is
it's all the same. Yeah,
it's all the same block.
Yeah.
But this all leads with Boswell getting the murderous cut back.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably the bigger issue, is that the cut's going to come back. So
this Obzon deck is so good at just, you have to beat this, and even if you beat this, there's the next wave of stuff. We haven't even talked about the Elspeths that are in Boswell's hand. The game hasn't even gotten close to that being
Don't even have to cast those yet. Strong Straw was a copy of Sylvan Carry added. And not to mention, the other thing, too, is it feels like this deck does gain like a decent amount of life between Soren and Wingmate Rock and Courser. So, the longer the game goes, your cards are typically more powerful than your opponents. You get to work towards drawing those. Here's a Murderous Cut to kill the dragon, and that is going to do it. Andrew Boswell is going to win this match over Tom Strong, 2-1. Obzon mid-range, the Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir winning deck is 4-0.
Just too much power in Boswell's sideboard for this matchup, in my estimation.